Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FPC NFL Sunday. It is week 14 in the NFL, and we are here to break down everything you're about to see today. And as you can see on the screen, it is just Ricky and I. It's we're running the show, just the two of us today. So cue the Will Smith remake of the classic song right now. How you doing, Ricky?
Doing good, Ian. Happy back for another week of football. Hopefully, I don't try to embarrass my assistant coaches. Urban Meyer is purportedly done, but hey, we'll try to get through today.
I'm glad you mentioned him because I'm assuming you read some of the tidbits and some of the information that was coming out of some of the meetings apparently that he was holding. And what do they say? This was he basically pulled out a ruler on stage and said, "Hey, what do you guys deserve? Why do you guys deserve to have your job?" And look, I mean, I don't think, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think anyone, or I think there was a majority of people that saw this when this hire was made and said, okay, good luck. Because, I mean, did anyone actually have confidence that Urban Meyer was going to be able to be a competent NFL head coach in this league?
I think the bar was set so low with the Jaguars to where success for them this year would have been, 6 wins?
Oh, sure.
Like just something that looked like they were getting on the right track, and they've gone backwards. And you feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because it's hard to judge how good he is because their offense has a tough time just scoring a touchdown. I think most quarterbacks have an issue with that. But when you talk about saying, "Oh, defend your job," well, Urban, you hired them. If you don't want them, fire them. And if you didn't hire them, then there's an issue with the front office, which I don't tend to agree with. I think the problem Urban Meyer is trying to figure out right now, it's not all about him. Like you may not want the players to control things, but they have to have a say in some stuff. Like you can't have like Chase Claypool doing first down celebration in the fourth quarter, but you can work with your players and other things. Like you can't make it like, oh, we're gonna bench James Robinson because he fumbled, but we're never gonna put him back in yet. We're gonna play Carlos Hyde, and it just so happens that Hyde played for Meyer at Ohio State. Like the optics are just so bad that veterans I can understand are just ticked off with him. And for me, if I'm the Jaguars this year, I get rid of Urban Meyer, and I find a veteran head coach or a coach that at least has some experience, maybe even the defensive side of the ball. And maybe there's a report that teams looking at Joe Brady again. Maybe hire Joe Brady on offense to work with Trevor Lawrence. At least give him a better quarterback option to work with than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, how about this? Give him a coach that isn't going to be the biggest star on the team. And I don't mean star as in a compliment. I mean like his own self-inflated ego makes him feel like he is the star of this team. And I'm talking about Urban Meyer. Like it seemed like such a wrong fit from the get-go. I mean, again, this is why the Jaguars team is, for the most part, a bottom dweller. They had their little run there where they kind of really hit on some draft picks. Tom Coughlin obviously was involved in building that part of the team, but it really didn't last longer than that. And again, if you want to save Trevor Lawrence, if you want to not ruin his career already, you go and get a coach that can, again, take a step back and not be as incompetent, at least in public. I mean, good God. I mean, it just seems like every single week there's something with Urban Meyer. And I can't imagine that he would ever last any longer than this year. That's if he gets out of this year. But, at this rate, with only, 5 weeks left, he might make it through this season. I just don't see how you can bring him back for the next year. So, Anyways, so this weekend is no Patriots. The Patriots are sitting very nicely at the top of the AFC and will remain at the top of the AFC regardless of the outcome of all the games this weekend because of their tiebreakers. I think Kansas City's the only team that the Patriots have not played that they don't own the direct tiebreaker over. But Kansas City's conference record is so poor that for them, it's going to take a little bit extra for them to overtake the Patriots. So no matter what happens this weekend, the Patriots can sit back knowing that they will enter next week, week 15, as still the number 1 seed as they prepare for a pretty big matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. But we're going to shift away from that, obviously, except for we're going to mention the Patriots just a little bit here in a moment because we got two veteran quarterbacks. The two quarterbacks I feel that are still very clearly the best two in the league and have been for quite some time, going up against opponents that they tend to love very, very much. And that is Aaron Rodgers versus the Chicago Bears. And of course, Tom Brady now with the Bucks going up against the Bills, who right now, despite their, top rated defense, they've been reeling a bit. So I know Chicago's really not into it. So there's no real big, playoff implication or a big time scenario playing off that game like there is with the Buccaneers and the Bills, who are both fighting for conference ranking. But there is something to be said about the two of those players and their dominance over those two teams. And we heard earlier this season, Aaron Rodgers obviously say I effing own you to the Chicago Bears fans. And look, I mean, give him credit. This is a guy who's had quite some success over the Bills. But as I wrote in something I posted late last night, if Aaron Rodgers owns the Chicago Bears, then Tom Brady basically created the Buffalo Bills for basically his own sick amusement, because as you can see on the screen here, it's just been absolute domination. I mean, again, he has a pretty comfortable lead over the next player if you don't include his record against the New York Jets, which is almost equally as good as it is against the Bills. And you can see not Brett Favre, but you can see Brett Favre up there, but you can see Aaron Rodgers down there with 21 wins in 26 games, which is very impressive in and of itself. So, how impressed have you been with both of these players this season? I know they're both going into pretty big games this year. They're both competing against each other for that NFC's top seed and could very well meet in the playoffs. How impressed are you with the two old guys?
Rodgers has been impressive in that there have been games where they've just had to rely on him to win more so with, remember the Arizona game with no Aaron Jones and all the Devontae Adams being out and just finding ways to win. And he's banged up. He's trying to get through injuries, and just dominating the Bears isn't really that much of a shock. In fact, it's actually good for NBC that Justin Fields is playing tonight, not Andy Dalton, or you'd have almost zero reason to watch this game. Brady, I've been impressed with him. Obviously at 44, he's doing things that nobody expects him to do. But I think it's more of they're finding more of an identity this year than in previous compared to last year. Last year it took them about till this time to find an identity. This year they kind of have it. Where, yeah, they don't have Antonio Brown because he's busy getting suspended or getting injured, but they have Leonard Fournette running the ball, catching the ball out of the backfield. There could be a physical team, and they could be a team that throws the ball over the place. So the fact they could do both things, and they know that now, is scary come playoff time. The other scary part about this list, two things. One being, when you look at the 32-3 that Brady has against the Bills, is one of those the game where it was one of those week 17s where like Garoppolo played the second half. So
Exactly.
You're really 33-2. And then
Yeah.
one of those is the Ryan Fitzpatrick game where they didn't let the Bills score in the end zone at the end of the game, and they should have, and the Bills end up kicking a 20-yard field goal. And then the Dolphin one's impressive at 24-12 because it's impossible to win in Miami, it seems, for New England in some years. So the fact that Brady's that good against the Dolphins, maybe a lot of those are home wins, I'm sure, but to be that good still is a solid feat.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up that game because it came in 2014. It was Jimmy G's rookie season, and it was week 17. The Patriots were obviously, gearing up for the playoffs and would eventually go on to win the Super Bowl that year. And then prior to that, it was 2011. So the last legitimate loss Tom Brady had to the Buffalo Bills was a decade ago, and in between, there's been some just absolutely backbreaking losses for the Bills, some torturous losses for the Bills. But the one thing that they can hang their hat on, Ricky, and this is kind of one of those odd little, I guess little stats in Brady's career in the regular season, he's thrown 4 interceptions 5 times. He's done it twice against the Bills, and again, like I said, there's some silver lining for Bucks fans in this situation, because in both situations, one came in 2003, one came in 2011. What happened at the end of both of those seasons? Brady and the Patriots were in the Super Bowl. Now, that 2003 game, we all know, was probably one of the most satisfying losses in hindsight in Patriots history, because it was obviously bookended by the same exact score against the Bills, 31-0 to start the season. We get the infamous Tom Jackson, the players don't trust their coach. And then, of course, the Patriots go on to and go 14-1 the rest of the way, including beating the Buffalo Bills by the same exact score to end the season. So even in the good times for the Bills, it's been a little bit torturous because even when they do beat the Patriots or Tom Brady, he still ends up going to the Super Bowl. So in this case, though, I'm looking at this game and I'm like, all right, the Bills right now, they're second in the league in points per game behind the Patriots. They are first in yards per game. They have one of the best passing defenses in the league. They actually don't. They do have the best passing defense in the league. I believe it's ranked the highest. Biggest problem for them, though, Ricky, Tom Brady is 12-2. 12-2 when he goes up against the league's best passing defense. So I look at this game and I say, this is going to magnify how big of a loss last week was for the Buffalo Bills, because they're all of a sudden teetering on being out of the playoff picture. Because right now at 7-4, it's not bad. But if they go and lose to the Buccaneers, which again I think is a pretty good bet that they do, all of a sudden they're 7-6. They're 2 games behind the Patriots. I'd say there'd be cause for concern for their playoff potential, which would be crazy to think considering this team was in the AFC Championship game a year ago.
You throw the head-to-head tiebreaker in there, Ian. If the Bills do lose today, it's essentially 3 with 4 to play. And yes, one of them is with Buffalo and New England playing each other, but that's still a lot to ask, even though Buffalo ends with Atlanta, Carolina, and the Jets. So there is a path to 10 for Buffalo, but 11 is going to probably win this AFC East at the very least. So they need this game today. I think there is one issue with Tampa going in today, and it's not an issue necessarily, but you can't ignore, and all interceptions are not created equal. And Tom Brady has thrown a pick in 5 straight games. And there was the ugly pick at the end of the first half against the Falcons where you're like, why is he throwing a screen pass in the back of his own end zone with like 30 seconds left in the half? So there is something there. And the Bills can at least create mistakes with turnovers. That without Tre'Davious White, they still have decent defense. The problem for the Bills is I don't know how you get off the mat off a short week after only losing a game which the opponent throws 3 times. I guess that helps your pass defense when you face a team that has 19 passing yards, that you will usually get up to the top 1 or 2 in the league when that happens. But the bad thing for Buffalo is, yeah, Tampa's not the team that will punch you in the mouth, but Leonard Fournette can do that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs came out and said, you know what? We saw what Belichick just did. Let's have Leonard Fournette run the first 5, 6 plays, and let's see if you can stop it. And if you can't, we'll play action with Brady. We'll go down the field. I don't think they need Brady to throw it around the yard today. Honestly, until somebody that Bills defense steps up and stops the run, I don't get why other teams wouldn't do the same thing, even if you have a great quarterback.
Well, I also believe that they will also look at the absence of Tre'Davious White, because it really wasn't felt last week. I mean, let's be honest, like you're not gonna feel the impact of his loss in a game like they had against the Patriots because of the input, because of the whole scenario, how the game was, how the situation was. I think they might feel that today because, I mean, again, those of you who don't watch the Buffalo Bills regularly don't realize how good this player is and how big of an impact he has on this overall defense. Now, especially, when you have a guy like, to your point, not all interceptions are created equal. And Tom, to his credit, is still, whether you believe in the legitimacy of this number or not, still near the bottom of the league when it comes to turnover worthy plays. However, perception is, and it could be reality, that a majority of those turnover worthy plays has come in the more recent weeks. And I would agree with that. So across the entire season, the number of plays that have been deemed turnover worthy from him is near non-existent. However, to your point, they have kind of come all together in the last several weeks. Now, last week's that play, the play call, the route, the throw, everything about it was just so lazy. So I'd like to think that was just just a momentary blip. You know how sometimes when you play Madden and you're feeling yourself a bit and then you just do something completely stupid, or you double tap A, or you accidentally throw it the second you snap the ball and you throw a pit. I kind of think that maybe they just got a little bit too ahead of themselves. And it just, again, it was lazy. It was just a simple pick and play, and there you have it. And again, it looks bad. I mean, outside of that, they were great, but that's again concerning because all you need is for that to happen once to really change a game. Fortunately for them, it was the Falcons. I look at this game and the Bucks have a potential to win the division today, week 14, which would be the first, I believe, first team that has that option or has that scenario for them. They would have to win, and I believe both the Saints and the Panthers would have to lose today, and they would lock up the NFC South, which, again, last year they didn't win the division. They did go on to win the Super Bowl. So I think there's some, I think there's some added motivation there. Not that they need it, not that it would be necessary for them to win this game. I just think the Buffalo Bills are, I think they're just teetering right now. I mean, I think they're hanging on by a thread, and short of winning this game, I don't know if they can recover from it, to be honest with you.
I mean, just go off the comments they made after the game Monday. Sean
Right.
McDermott basically saying, well, yeah, I guess you could say Belichick got me and all the things like that. You got Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde basically giving a reprimand to the media for asking a question of how you feel embarrassed to get run on. I mean, they didn't exactly handle that very well. It looked like a team that was like, yeah, we got this. We're playing a rookie quarterback. We played the Patriots well last year. We swept them. We should be fine. And then reality set in. And you wonder if a short week can they get off the mat. Look, they're a good football team. I
Mhm.
think Josh Allen's going to get the ball down the field. They're going to make plays. They're going to score points today. But can they actually stop anybody? And if Leonard Fournette's running up and down the field, because I think I agree with you. I think a lot of Brady's interceptions you see are like tip passes, things like that. But it's also not a bad thing, especially when you get to December. If maybe you look at Brady and you say, you know what, maybe there's a game if this is one where he doesn't have to throw 45 times or 40 times.
Mhm.
Maybe we can give Leonard Fournette a lot of work. Maybe we could give some screens. Maybe we could, if we know this is their weakness and we know that they can do a certain thing, exploit it. And there's a lot on the line for Tampa. I mean, they're going to win the South because the South stinks.
Mhm.
But the number one seed's in play. Getting home games in Tampa is in play because they're undefeated at home this season. Their last two home games are New Orleans and Carolina. So they have a chance if they win to essentially have an undefeated home record for the year. And it's easier for them to play at Raymond James, albeit Brady can play anywhere. But I don't think you want to go to Lambeau in January again. You want to like there's a chance to have everything go in your backyard. So there's still so much to play for, even if the South has already decided because all three teams decided basically to lay an egg this year.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they did the gauntlet last year, going on the road 3 games, and it was nice to be able to land at home for the Super Bowl. That doesn't obviously ever happen, but they still had to go through that, and I'm assuming they don't want to do that again. If they want to repeat, obviously, getting that first round bye is so much more important now than it ever was because it's the only bye, and it could give you a great advantage moving forward. Because now if you aren't the number one seed, you got to win 3 games to get to the Super Bowl. It's not impossible. Brady's certainly done it. This isn't, but you'd rather only have to win 2. And I think, being at home, being able to rest, certainly a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries over the course of the season, being able to stay at home for a majority of the rest of the season would be ideal for them. And then only have to, if they do make it to the Super Bowl, make that West Coast trip once, and that's it. So you're right. Yeah, there are a lot of things on the line, especially for the Bills and for the Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bills are, I think, in a little bit more desperate situation, obviously, because again, some unexpected teams have made the AFC a lot more competitive. Kansas City's slow start has kept them kind of right in the middle of everything, and then you have several other teams that look. We heard that Derrick Henry may be back by week 18, and if Tennessee can hang on, they can just kind of stay in the mix here. They get Derrick Henry back, that could change a lot because we know how important he is. So, I don't know about you, Ricky, but I'm almost starting to come around to the added playoff team. I was kind of against it. I didn't really I was like, you know what? Like, why are we adding a wild card game? Why are we taking away a bye? But maybe this season is going to be an outlier, but I feel like there's so much more competition. Like we have outside of the couple teams at the top of each conference, there's 7, 8 teams in the mix for the playoffs, and we're only about a month away from the playoffs. I'd say that's exactly what the NFL wanted.
Oh no, it's a great thing, especially when you look at the AFC. Like you can make the case for 8, 9, 10 teams being in the playoffs in the AFC. It's that crazy. So you need the extra playoff spot this year. And just when you look at even the Dolphins, we talked about them last week to go from 1-7 to essentially a game out of the playoffs. With nobody would be shocked if they won 3 of their last 4 and stayed in it, or even won out, considering their history winning at home against New England. So it's not impossible for them. I wish though you could take the NFC last playoff spot out. I think we kind of know that the 5 teams that are good. I think Washington, if they can win today, kind of gets themselves in already because
Mhm.
they just play NFC East teams the rest of the way. But when you look at San Francisco, how inconsistent Minnesota is, how inconsistent Philly is, how bad Carolina is, how bad Atlanta is, and we got to pick a playoff team out of that mix. That to me, I'm like, okay, maybe we can make it 6 in the NFC this year, but still to have drama with 5 weeks left where only a few teams are out and essentially have eliminator games the next 2, 3 weeks is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and look, like I said, maybe this will end up being an outlier. In most seasons, we're going to have what we see in the NFC, where you have 5 really good quality teams, and then the last couple, you're like, all right, this is essentially a bye for whoever gets to play these teams. Now we know how the NFL is; that's not always the case, but so yeah, so maybe next season we're going to be sitting here saying, you know what, this sucks. Why do we have 7 playoff teams? There's no point. We have 2 teams getting in that are barely above 500, or worst case scenario, they're under 500 trying to get in, and that's never a good thing. All right, so like I said, we do every week. We do our pickup props, and we're gonna have some fun with them today, of course, like we do every week, and then we're gonna do our picks before we let you all go and get ready for yet another Sunday here in the NFL. So since it's just the 2 of us, we're going to fly through these. It's going to be pretty quick. We're probably going to end up ending the show a little bit earlier than normal, but here we are. So over under for Antonio Gibson. We talked about that big NFC matchup. The Washington football team, they are right still in the mix, and they have all their games remaining against the NFC East. So Washington can make a huge run. It's going to rely a lot on their skill players on offense. Taylor Heineke, is he going to protect the ball and play good brand of football? And it is Antonio Gibson going to be a focal point of the offense? So week 14 against the Cowboys, over under 99.5 yards for Mr. Gibson.
I'm going to go with the over. JD McKissick is not in the lineup today, so you know Gibson's going to get a focal point of the work. I'm still angry at Antonio Gibson because he decides to get going when my fantasy team is out of the playoffs as opposed to earlier in the season. But for a Dallas defense that I'm interested to see how they do today against an actual running game, and they struggled against Taysom Hill 10 days ago. Now they get to face a running game with Gibson. I think Washington's going to have success running the ball today, so give me the over.
All right, next we got Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase. He's kind of a guaranteed touchdown if you have him in fantasy. 49ers, we talked about the 49ers. They look like a team that's starting to play a little bit better. They're getting healthier. They're playing a little bit more consistent, but I don't think either of us trust them completely. On the flip side, Cincinnati may be the very mirror reflection of what the San Francisco 49ers are in the NFC. They're a team that can win some games. They have some puzzling moments at sometimes and could certainly lose any game that they play. I like Jamar Chase in this game. I think he's going to have a big game just because, I mean, it's, the talent is hard to deny. Do you believe over under 64.5 yards receiving?
I'm going to go over, but I don't think he has that many catches because I look at this game and I still can't get over the picture of Joe Burrow's finger looking like a balloon.
Oh, yeah.
Last week. I think he had to hand the ball off backwards. But when you look at this Bengals team, they've had a hard time winning 2 in a row. They've done it twice, but they haven't won 3 in a row all season long. So it's tough to trust them at all. And I think today's game just comes down to who can run the ball better between these 2 teams. So I could see a lot of Joe Mixon today, just primarily just to keep Joe Burrow upright. Because he's also, while he throws a ton of picks, he's been sacked, I think, but I saw this morning, the second most in the NFL. This is a really tough Niners defense. So I think it's over, but I could see it being like a 3 catch for like 65-yard kind of game. Maybe he gets like a 45-yarder. That's if he hangs on to it because he had 2 drops, including one that led to a pick last week.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, I mean, like to your point, he could end up with 1 catch for 64 yards and a touchdown, and that'll be Jamar Chase. So I think it could be, or 65 yards. Because I am taking the over as well, and I think it's just based on, regardless of how much they utilize him. To your point, Ricky, he's just a big play waiting to happen if he catches the ball. All right, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, over under 5.5 touchdown passes between the two of them.
I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say 5. I think Brady gets 2. I think Josh Allen gets 3. And the reason I say Allen gets more is because the Bills have to basically throw the ball to keep up in this game. They know the Bucks have a weakness in the secondary. I think Diggs will play better. I think Sanders will play better. Dawson Knox will actually catch the ball this week because it's not cold. So I think they'll be fine. And like I said before, Tampa Bay, I think Brady can throw for 2 touchdowns. So they get in the goal line. Just hand the ball to Leonard Fournette. Let him get the job done. And I'm not just saying that because I also have Leonard Fournette in the league. I have to make the playoffs in. But
Hey, there's always something there. There's some, a little bias there. I understand. It's okay.
Little bit, but it's also a good formula for them to have where, like, hey, we get the ball at the 5, we could punch that ball in. So I think Buffalo needs to pass more than Tampa does today. So I think it's slightly under. I don't see both quarterbacks getting 3 touchdowns today.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, I think Fournette's had a far better season this year. Last year, I felt he was more of a liability in the passing game. Now, again, he's not James White. He's not some of the guys that Brady's played with in the past in that position. But he's had a lot stronger position. I feel like he's catching the ball at a higher rate, and he's not dropping as many passes last year. I believe in one of the playoff games alone, there was a couple just really bad drops, and that was kind of a theme. But he was good on the ground and had some really big moments this season. Again, to your point, he's had just more of a consistent run of it all. So I like that. I think that's a better strategy moving forward. However, I don't know if Bruce Arians will do that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like unlike they'd be prone to throw it a little bit more, not for any sort of stat padding purposes, but they've just relied so much on Tom Brady's arm this season. It would be wise to give it a little bit of a break heading into the playoffs, but at the same time, what's working, what's not broken.
Ronald Jones made a sighting out of nowhere. I was like, wait, he's still on the Bucks?
I forget sometimes, to be honest, because look, he's not as I don't know. It's tough to explain because if you were to talk to some people in February of this year, you would think that Ronald Jones was an All-Pro running back because hey, that's the only reason Brady won. But the reality of it is he's just not found a consistent role on this team. And Fournette, to his credit, has been really good. So, all right, next big matchup, divisional matchup, could be a big matchup. Again, I kind of expected a big matchup the last time these two teams met. Raiders didn't show up. Kansas City did. Since then, though, Kansas City's offense still hasn't really found any sort of rhythm or consistency outside of that game against the Raiders. I do feel like the Raiders were finally feeling the effects of just everything that had been going on over the last few weeks between Gruden and everything with Henry Ruggs and all that. But in this game, I mean, this is pretty big. Kansas City's, again, right in that mix in the AFC. They're going to probably want to prefer to have that top overall seed. And Las Vegas is still within a fighting chance of getting into this playoff picture as well. So who do you think has a bigger game, Josh Jacobs or Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
This one's so tough because both these running backs can have good first quarters and then leave the game with injury. Like it really could come
Darren
down.
Waller, by the way, too, for the Raiders. So,
and which one could stay healthy? You saw Jacobs get 9 catches last week out of the backfield. Both them, the last couple games have been about 70, 80 yards total. I'm going to go Jacobs. I think for Vegas, the goal today has got to be keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline, try to do something against this defense. Because, I mean, the first matchup this year was competitive up until mid third quarter, late third quarter. So we know Vegas can hang around. They are very consistent offensively. I just don't think the Chiefs put any balance in their ground game. When they do, it's mostly deep. It's mostly Darrell Williams anyway. It's not really Helaire, which has been a disappointment. I'm going to go Jacobs, but this is not one if you're looking to like put a parlay together that I would exactly be confident in trying your luck with.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that one. Oops, no, we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forwards. But actually, no. Before I saw the news, so very clearly, I'm going to go with Travis Kelce on this one, solely for the fact that we both know now that Darren Waller is not playing. So I forgot to take this out of the rotation when we were going through it all. So we'll move on to the next one. We'll actually go back
Well,
to this.
if you want to stick with Kelce on a different one, I mean, we could go over under 1.5 touchdowns on Kelce.
I like that. Okay. All right. You know, I'll take the over. I feel like this is a Travis Kelce game. I feel like we've gotten a lot of Tyreek Hill lately. I feel like Travis Kelce, if Patrick Mahomes can sit back and sit in the pocket and not get happy feet and just, you know, I think Travis Kelce has got to be a big part of that game plan. And you know, again, if the Raiders want to keep him off the field, well, Patrick Mahomes can, you know, go up and down the field if he wants, if he's targeting Travis Kelce. And I'm thinking Travis Kelce, maybe it's because I have a little bit of fantasy bias as well in this situation. I'm thinking Travis Kelce does get a pair of touchdowns today.
Kelce against Vegas on November 14th, 10 catches, 8 catches on 10 targets, 119 yards, no touchdowns. In fact, Travis Kelce has not had a touchdown in 3 straight games, and he has won in the last
So he's
4.
due. He's due.
He is overdue. In fact, he has only caught more than 1 touchdown once this season, and that was week 1 against Cleveland. So until this Chief offense finds itself, and eventually it's going to, I'm going to go the under just because Kelce's not really getting the ball. I mean, it's really, honestly, Darrell Williams had a good game last week. And sometimes even Denver's defense figured him out a little bit. I can't go over until I see with my own eyes these passes just start to click again with Mahomes. I think he will get in the end zone today because it's odd that Kelce has just 2 touchdowns since October 10th. But I don't think he's going to have a 2-3 touchdown day today.
Well, if you think about it, they don't, you know, they're not pushing the ball downfield as much. So they're doing a lot of short stuff, which means, well, you're going to get a lot of Tyreek Hill and Darrell Williams. So what's Travis Kelce? Yeah, he's going to catch he's going to catch some short passes, but he's a lot better in open space. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy that, you know, you get him in open space down the field, and they just haven't been consistently moving the ball in that direction this season. So it does make sense why Travis Kelce's touchdown numbers aren't necessarily there. But I'm hoping for my fantasy sake that maybe today's the day that he breaks out in a Kansas City loss. I hope so. I got a lot of different narratives going on in my head right now with the Patriots off. All right, we've done that one. We've actually done all of these. Okay, here we go. Back to the Bills and the Buccaneers. Total points scored in this game over under 52.5.
Slightly over. I think this says a makes of a 31-24 kind of ball game. I don't trust either of these defenses. And that includes Tampa's defense. I know their front seven got better last week, but their secondary is still just so bad that Josh Allen's going to connect on something. He may overthrow a few deep balls, but eventually he will connect on 1 or 2 of them. They'll get in the end zone. Maybe Josh Allen runs in a score or something like that, where the Bills can at least put up 20-plus points today. They should be able to. Tampa, though, will put up at least 24-plus against this Bills defense. So I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. And yeah, I don't trust this Buccaneers defense because of their defense. I don't trust the Bills defense because of Tom Brady. So in both situations, it's hard to bet on either of these teams. I do think you're right. I think this is going to be kind of exactly what you said, a low to mid 30s, high 20s type game, you know, from each team, and that's going to definitely put us over the over. So total points in a Cowboys Washington week 14 matchup, 49.5. This has a lot of implications for how the rest of this last month of the season is going to play out in the NFC East. I think we're going to get a low scoring, kind of a scrappy game. You know, I don't know what it is. Just my gut's telling me it's going to be some low scoring, like the 17-21 type finish. And that would certainly put us on the under. So give me the under.
Yeah, this has a good making of an old fashioned NFC East rough and tumble kind of ball game where like points are going to be at a premium. And then one thing I'm looking at right now is I'm trying to see. I don't know if they revealed is Tony Pollard playing today for Dallas, and from what I'm reading, it sounds like he's not. Still a game time decision. That's a big deal if he doesn't, because now you're relying on Ezekiel Elliott, who's banged up himself. They can't really run the football, so Dak's have to throw a bit, which maybe leads to Dallas getting a few more points because you can hit a deep ball to Lamb or Cooper. Washington's got that ball control, game control kind of offense because remember, they don't have Logan Thomas anymore. So that now takes away a weapon that was starting to emerge for them when he came back. They do have McLaurin and Dallas you can throw on them when you're not giving the ball away as New Orleans did. I'm going to go under. I could see a couple big plays in this game, but in the end, I think it's going to be which defense makes the stops that decides it. So I'll take the under here.
Yeah, and to your point, the way these games work out, this could be a points at a premium game for 3 quarters, and then all hell breaks loose in the fourth quarter because hey, these NFC East games, are never short of entertaining. I'll give them that. All right. Oh, I'm just flying all over the place. Speaking of the NFC, we're gonna keep it here. So we're both taking the under on the previous one. This will likely mean that we're probably. I don't know. Maybe we're not taking the under on this one. Over under 4.5 touchdowns combined from Taylor Heineke and Dak Prescott.
This is a tricky one because now it's combined, and both these quarterbacks can run for one. I mean, but when they get in the goal line, it's really Washington. Either Gibson runs it in or Heineke essentially runs it in. And Dallas, if no Pollard today, maybe you see Dak use more of his legs and try to get a rushing touchdown. I think both combined for 2. Yeah, I'll go under. I think it's 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under 2 just because the math is gets pretty tight when you pick the under and say something like they're gonna score combined under 40 points. It's kind of hard for me to feel like they're gonna combine for 5 touchdowns between the two of them. So that is it. So that means we're down to our game picks. We're actually going to put our reputation on the line, Ricky, if we haven't done so already throughout these several weeks that we've been doing the show. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with Baltimore at Cleveland, a matchup that it's intriguing in a lot of ways. I think both teams are reeling, but both teams have potential of being a very good team. I just right now, I think I'm gonna edge or I'm gonna stay with the home team, and I could very well contradict myself when I pull up my graphic here in just a minute, and it shows that I probably picked the Ravens. So I apologize ahead of time. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of who I picked, but maybe I just changed my mind. I'm gonna go with Cleveland here at home. I think I'm gonna give them the slight edge. In a matchup that it's really hard to pick, in my opinion. I don't know what Lamar Jackson we're going to get. I don't know what Baker Mayfield we're going to get. I don't know what these defenses are going to do. Give me the home team.
Lamar Jackson's thrown 5 picks in the last 2 weeks, yet they won one of those games against Cleveland. And if there's just a slightly better ball to Mark Andrews in the 2-point conversion, they beat the Steelers last week. When it comes down to both these teams, I know Cleveland's just come off the bye and they're getting a little bit healthier and they're feeling good about themselves. Until I see Baker Mayfield actually have success in this kind of a game, remember the Browns got 4 turnovers. They didn't really do anything with them. And Lamar Jackson's not going to throw 4 interceptions again. I don't think Harbaugh is going to allow him to do that today. Close game, but when it's a close game, take the team with the better kicker. Justin Tucker wins it for the Ravens.
Ooh, coming down to a field goal. All right, Jacksonville at Tennessee. Look, Tennessee's been struggling. They're not going to lose to Jacksonville. I don't think. I mean, I would like them to lose as a Patriot fan because, of course, brings them down a notch a little bit more. But the reality of it is Jacksonville's just a mess. Give me Titans.
Titans coming off the bye. Julio Jones is back. Maybe there's more of a downfield threat with this passing game. And Jacksonville is going to be dealing with too much of trying to figure out if their coach actually looks at them as adults. Give them the Titans.
Next, Kansas City hosting the Raiders. This is, again, another tough game to pick. You believe in the Chiefs defense, but the offense is still shaky. You know the Raiders have the ability to put up a lot of points. I'm going to go once again with the home team just because I think it's that close. But at the end of the day, I think Kansas City is going to pull this one out.
Even though Vegas won last year in Arrowhead, I don't think they can do it 2 years in a row. I just think the Chiefs offense does just enough. And right now it's just tough to trust this Vegas offense to put up a bunch of points consistently outside the Dallas game. They haven't really done that in recent weeks. And they kind of need to do that today. So just by the consistency of the Chiefs defense, I think they get a win. But this is also a trap game because remember, Thursday they play the Chargers in LA with essentially the AFC West on the line. So you wonder if they're slightly looking ahead to that.
Yeah, and look, Kansas City, it's a victory isn't guaranteed like it has been in years past, or at least the perception of it is. So these games are always a little bit more difficult, especially the interdivision ones as well. So next we have the Saints at the Jets. Give me the Saints. I mean, neither team's really good right now, but I do trust the Saints a lot more. I think their defense is at least decent. I just think at this point in the season, their year is over. I just going up against the Jets. Give me any team that faces the Jets. I'll take them.
Yeah, I actually went back and forth in this earlier in the week because Taysom Hill is so bad throwing the ball, and he's got
Not
that.
according to Chris Sims.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking, but he's got the finger injury that Russell Wilson has. So now you got a guy that can't throw with a bad finger. You got Cam Jordan, I believe, on the COVID list. Mark Ingram on the COVID list. They're battling injuries, battling different things. Then you get to the Jets. Saturday, Elijah Moore, their best weapon on IR. Tevin Coleman, their better running back with their depth that's depleted there. He's out. I don't think the Jets can. Kamara's back. I mean, that if Kamara wasn't back, I would maybe think the Jets could surprise, but the Jets defense is just so bad. Taysom Hill could run for 100 yards probably today. Saints should win, but this is one I would probably avoid if we actually like offense.
Yeah, it's probably going to be one of those ugly, ugly games. Next, that NFC East battle we were talking about, Washington hosting Dallas. Again, I think we're all sort of seeing that. I do believe Washington is a pretty good team. They got off to a slow start. They've been playing some better football. I think this is a close game to call, but I'm going to go with the home team. I mean, again, I'm falling back on the whole, well, they're at home. I think they're going to be able to pull it out. And again, this could start a run for the football team to win this division and make it to the playoffs. So give me Washington.
I can't believe the stat I heard this week that Washington hasn't beaten Dallas 3 straight since 1988. That is an insane stat in that rivalry that has not happened. I thought Dallas earlier in the week, and then I heard Mike McCarthy basically guarantee a win. And if Mike McCarthy's starting to guarantee stuff, it's probably not going to happen. Washington desperately needs this game. They know that they can stay in the division with a win. Dallas, I think, will be fine even if they lose, although people will panic and Stephen A. Smith will joyfully cheer against Michael Irvin on Monday. But give me Washington to hang on largely because the momentum is on their side right now. And Dallas is still trying to figure things out, especially if Pollard doesn't go today.
Next, we got the battle of the bottom of the NFC South. Atlanta going to Carolina. I like Atlanta in this game just because I am a fan of Matt Ryan, and I do think they are capable of elevating their play at times. And I think in this situation, they'll go into Carolina and beat them. So give me the Falcons. Not much more to add to that from my side.
Matt rules on thin ice.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, Cam Newton. This game would have been great 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Atlanta, but I'd have to flip a coin. But I'm good. I don't trust Carolina either. All right, avoid this one, but Atlanta somehow wins. I don't know how.
Yeah, somehow, some way they get more points than Carolina. I can't explain how. Even after I see it, I might not be able to explain how it happened. But okay, next game we got last of our 1 o'clocks. We got Houston hosting Seattle. This is my upset special of the week, Ricky. I picked it on Friday. I'm going to pick it again here because apparently I have not come to my senses. I'm going to take Houston in this game. I hate what the Seahawks are right now. I don't think that there's any redeeming quality in what they are. I think they're heading towards a split between Carroll and Russell Wilson. Whether one or both are gone from Seattle next year would not surprise me. And look, Tyrod Taylor isn't going to be in there. He was playing well for Houston. I do like Davis Mills. I think he's going to play well enough for Houston to pick up a upset victory. I say upset, but is it really an upset at this point?
Believe it or not, there's a path for Seattle not to get in the playoffs because Seattle's not going to get in the playoffs. There's a path to about 7 or 8 wins, and that would be crazy considering how bad they've been. Asking Davis Mills, who still has yet to win a game, and you could clearly tell there's limitations to the offense with Mills opposed to with Taylor. And I think Seattle found something a little bit last week against San Francisco. Maybe not as much, but I can't see Russell Wilson losing to the Texans. I think really closer than people think, but Seattle wins.
Next, we have Denver hosting Detroit. Give me the Broncos. One, because the Lions only have one win, and I don't think that they're going to get another one this season. That would be a little wild. But two, I do think that there is. Look, sadly, we heard the news about Demaryius Thomas passing away this past week, and obviously he was very beloved among the NFL community and certainly in Denver. So you add in that factor and that emotional situation, and I think Denver is going to have a pretty nice day at home against Detroit. So give me the Broncos.
Add in the fact the Lions also have roster issues with COVID and flu issues going in. The Lions, it was a good story. They got their win last week, and one they deserved to win. But Denver, to me, like you said, they're going to come out inspired today, and they've got a lot to play for too. You win this game, get to 7-6. All of a sudden, you got a big game with Cincinnati next week. You could potentially enhance your playoff positioning. So Denver should roll today.
Next, we have the Chargers hosting the New York Football Giants. No Daniel Jones. Not that it would really matter. Chargers are obviously the better team. And as you said, this could also work negatively, like you mentioned, with the Chiefs, because both of these teams are coming in with a potential win it for the division type of matchup next week. But they both have opponents that they should beat. But if you overlook them, maybe you get caught snoozing. I don't think that happens. I think the Chargers are going to keep it together enough, I would hope, to beat the Giants. So give me the Chargers at home.
The Giants are healthy-ish today. I think Sterling Shepard's supposed to play. Kenny Galladay is supposed to play. But Daniel Jones isn't. I kind of wish Jake from State Farm was playing quarterback instead of Mike Glennon, because he's going to make mistakes easily. Their offense with Freddie Kitchens is not much different than Jason Garrett. Chargers have at least found something from last week. But Keenan Allen, I think, is out today. I know Mike Williams is back. I think Keenan Allen still is on the COVID list. I don't think they'll need him. Maybe the Giant defense keeps him in it for a half because the Chargers are still trying to figure things out, and they've had a rough COVID week of their own. But LA should win.
Next, we got Cincinnati hosting the 49ers. I like Cincinnati at home in this one. Again, we talked about this game a little bit earlier. Two hot and cold type teams. I don't know. You could see them winning some big games, but you can also see them losing some pretty bad ones. But in this situation, I do think Cincinnati comes away with the victory. So give me Jamar Chase and swollen finger Joe Burrow for the win.
Deebo Samuel is expected to play for San Francisco today, and I think this Niners team has more of an identity than the Bengals. I think both kind of know what they are in a sense, but even though with Elijah Mitchell out, the Niners can run with anybody. We all know that. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, could maybe use some screens. George Kittle had a huge week last week. And right now, Cincinnati's defense is really one I can't put full faith in after watching them go down 24-0 last week in about a quarter and a half. And this Niners team doesn't really have a great matchup with Seattle, so that's why I can understand why they lost last week. I think their defensive line is going to get hits on Burrow, maybe get a fumble or two, especially if the grip isn't there with the hand that you would want. So I actually like the Niners on the road today.
Next, we got Tampa hosting Buffalo. Obviously, we talked about this game at great length. I think Tampa wins this one. Again, I trust a lot more about Tampa than I do about Buffalo right now, and I think this is going to be unfortunate for Bills fans. But give me Tom Brady picking up his 33rd win over the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it's the Bills. It's Tom Brady. I don't think you have to say much else. Tampa wins.
And you can say the exact same thing in the very next game, in our last game that we're going to pick, Sunday Night Football, Green Bay hosting Chicago. Same deal, 21 wins and 26 opportunities. Chicago's an okay team. Green Bay could be potentially the best in the NFC. I like Green Bay in this one.
Yeah, I'll make this short and sweet on this one. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's the Bears. Justin Fields at least makes it entertaining, so I'll take the Packers. Since we have a couple minutes, though, Ian, what do you think of Rams-Cardinals tomorrow night? Once again, the Monday game is better than the other games on the schedule.
It hasn't been that case for a while. I mean, last week, obviously, we got Bills and Patriots, but for a while, yeah, I mean, that game, it's tough. I'm not a big believer in the Rams. I'm really not. I think they're very let's just say they don't go much deeper than the surface. You know what I'm saying? Like I think on the surface they're very flashy. I think on the surface, they're very, this is the big bad Rams at Sean McVay. But the reality of it is, I don't think there's much behind that. I'm not going to call it a facade, but in this situation, I like the Cardinals a lot more. What I saw last week from them was just another solid matchup. And really, if it had not been for him missing 3 games this season, Kyler Murray, I believe, would be very much in this MVP discussion. However, you miss 3 games, they go 2-1 without him. That's the breaks for this, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Cardinals are a very, very good team. So I like the Cardinals in that game.
I agree with you on the missing 3 games. There's still kind of a path for Kyler Murray. I mean, you wonder if Aaron Rodgers has some dissenters in the MVP voting. You wonder if people like, can we give it to Brady again? And if the Cardinals go 9-0 on the road, which is, I know this league, the Cardinals' road schedule isn't great, but still to go potentially be 9-0 on the road would be fantastic. And yeah, they went 2-1, but they played like the Niners in Seattle, and they didn't play any really hard-ish games with McCoy at quarterback. I think to me, this is more of a statement for the Rams because this is their last gasp. If Stafford loses this game, Rams are essentially resigned to winning 3 road games to get to a home Super Bowl, which is a weird dynamic, but that's where they're at. Kind of like with Tampa last year. I don't think the Rams can win on the road. Plus, with Henderson on the COVID list, and he's out probably, Sony Michel is going to have to do what he did a week ago against the Jaguars. And it's just about who I trust more. And it's weird to say I trust Cliff Kingsbury more than Sean McVay, but Arizona dominated their first matchup, and nothing's really changed to me to think the Rams are going to just flip the switch, especially if Chase Edmonds plays for Arizona too and you throw him with Connor. Rams can't stop the run. I think Arizona makes the statement, wins this game, gets to 11-2, and really their last 2 tough games, one's home against Indy and one's at Dallas. They split those. They're probably the 1 seed in the NFC.
Hey, you don't have to convince me anything about. I'm not the biggest Sean McVay fan in the world, so what you said isn't that crazy. But yeah, I'd like to see what happens if Rams do lose this game because we said it when they made these moves. Look in the offseason, their whole mentality has always been Super Bowl or bust. Well, guess what? If you don't win the Super Bowl, I mean, it's hard to justify their team building route because it seems like it's more of just the collection of names and talent than actual players that are going to come together and win. It doesn't mean there aren't good players on that team, or it doesn't mean there aren't good coaches or good whatever. It just sometimes we see it. It doesn't mean success when you have a bunch of talent. And I think maybe there was a overinflated view of Matt Stafford. I think we know who he is. I think some people had this idea that getting him out of Detroit was all of a sudden going to make him an efficient quarterback when he's never been that. He's a guy who's, had some really great moments. He has a strong arm. He can throw it far. But guess what? He also turns the ball over in the worst possible times. And he has these stretches of play where it's just puzzling, where it's like, wait, what are you doing, Matt Stafford? This isn't a guy who has had a shortage of talent in his career. Now, granted, maybe he's been saddled with being with the Detroit Lions, but one of his big weapons just got inducted into the Hall of Fame on a short career, first ballot in Calvin Johnson. He's had guys like Marvin Jones. He's had guys like Kenny Golladay. He's had guys that have come through that organization, Golden Tate. I mean, really good wide receivers. So, yeah, Matt Stafford's going to put up some numbers. But I think we've seen now that there's not really much of a difference between Detroit Lion Matt Stafford and Los Angeles Ram Matt Stafford.
No, I agree with you. I think quarterback play, I don't even think quarterback play really decides this game, though. To me, I think you look at these teams, Arizona can run the ball way better than the Rams can. And you look at defensively, I know the Rams have the names, but which defense do you trust more? Most likely, when you watch the Rams give a big place, everybody not named Jacksonville, is probably Arizona's. Because Arizona's more athletic. They have good, if the better front 7 in terms of linebackers that can cover. To me, if you look at a team that's more prepared for January, which is weird because if they have it their way, they'll play in a climate-controlled environment the whole way.
Yeah.
But Arizona's got it. Really, the only question as we talk about Arizona in recent weeks is what Kingsbury going to do in January. If Kingsbury gets out of his own way and keeps this the way they're going, they're the best team by far. But It's about trying to keep it to what they are. As long as Kyler stays in the pocket and runs here or there, that changes everything. But to me, Monday's not about quarterback play. I think Stafford's going to make some plays. The teams as a whole, you look up and down that roster, the Rams have the names. Arizona's got the better cohesive units.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard. I can't disagree with anything you said because it's preaching to my thoughts. Because like I said, I'm not a big Sean McVay guy. I think this Rams team is kind of a, kind of turning into. It's going to be. I have a feeling that by the year's end, this Rams team is going to be kind of turned into a punchline, and sort of like, oh, you guys remember that 2021, kind of like the Eagles' dream team. Because if they lose this week, I mean, there's not. I don't have a lot of confidence in this team turning a switch or all of a sudden finding their identity late. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned the Bucks last year. Kind of similar. Had their struggles in the middle of the season. Nothing was guaranteed for them at the end, but you always felt that with Tom Brady and company, you get into the playoffs, you're going to be all right. And they went on and won 3 road games or whatever, and then won their home Super Bowl. I don't have that type of blind faith in Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and the Rams. So if they lose this game, I certainly don't think that they're going to go and win the rest of their games to get back into the top seed mix. But if they have to go on the road 3 times, hell, I don't even know if they make it to the second time. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we'll be wrong. Maybe we'll come back here next Sunday and be like, you know what? Those Rams, they put a thumping on the Cardinals, and we might have to reevaluate. But until then, we're going to enjoy today's slate of games. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back next Sunday. And, of course, tune in just a little bit later from now. We're going to get Kyle Senra and his fantasy breakdown. So, folks, have a great Sunday. Enjoy. Be safe. Get ready for the holidays. And we'll talk to you next week. Have a great day, everyone.